My wife's suitcase was gone, but her wedding ring lay in the kitchen sink, half submerged in dirty dishwater. For a few seconds my brain refused to connect the two facts. I stood there in the harsh fluorescent light, coat still on, keys biting into my palm, staring at the thin gold band like it was some strange, unfamiliar object. The tap was still dripping. Plink, plink, plink. Each drop hit the ring and sent a tiny shiver through the water. "Sarah," called out. The apartment answered with the low hum of the fridge and the distant whine of traffic 9 floors below. No shower running. No TV. No rustle of her moving from room to room. Just absence, thick and echoing. I walked down the hallway, my shoes suddenly too loud on the wood. Our bedroom door stood half open. The bed was made, the duvet smoothed with the kind of care she usually saved for weekends, not weekday nights. Her side of the closet gaped like a pulled tooth. Her suitcase was missing, a gap in the row of shoes where her black pumps should have been. A work trip, I thought, swallowing. The conference in Dubai she'd mentioned 3 weeks ago. She must have left early. Maybe she tried not to wake me. Except the ring. Sarah hated taking it off. She complained about the tiny indentation it left on her finger if she did. My phone buzzed in my pocket, startling me. I pulled it out and saw a notification I didn't recognize at first. An email from our shared airline rewards account. "Your one-way itinerary is confirmed." My stomach knotted. One way. My thumb shook as I tapped it open. Passenger Sarah Khan. Destination: Lisbon. Departure tonight. No return date. Lisbon. She was supposed to leave for Dubai on Thursday. She'd gone on about panels and networking and keynote speakers. She'd even made me listen to her practice her pitch in front of the bathroom mirror. Another email sat beneath it, timestamped 15 minutes earlier. Subject: Receipt Hotel Ratio Palace. 2 guests. 1 room. King bed. I scrolled down. The other name jolted my heart against my ribs. Guest 2, Daniel Hayes. Her business mentor. The word I'd always said in quotation marks, teasingly, even if only in my head. A warmth rose up in my chest, but it wasn't anger yet. It was something worse. The spreading, numb disbelief like the floor had turned to thin ice and I was just standing there, waiting to hear it crack. I found myself back in the kitchen, fingers fishing the ring out of the cloudy water. Grease slipped under my nails. The band felt heavier than it ever had on my own finger. I held it between thumb and forefinger, as if the right angle might reveal that this was all some misreading. A glitch. A mistake. I thought of Daniel. Tall, easy smile, the kind of handshake that made you feel seen. He'd taken an interest in Sarah when she'd switched from teaching to corporate training, promising to show her the ropes. He'd been at our dining table more times than I could count, laptop open, animatedly talking about strategy while Sarah scribbled notes. "He believes in me," she'd said once, her eyes bright in a way I hadn't seen in years. "It's nice." I'd smiled, kissed her forehead, told her I believed in her too. But I hadn't said it like he did, not with graphs and plans and introductions. The first red flag had been small. And almost nothing. We were in bed one night, her phone screen lighting the room every few minutes. Each time, she tilted it away without even realizing she was doing it. "Late night coaching?" I joked. She'd laughed too quickly. "He's sending resources," she'd said. "You have no idea how much work this takes." Then there were the weekends she spent catching up at cafes, coming home smelling like rain and someone else's cologne, a scent that wasn't mine and wasn't hers, hanging at the edges of her hair. Still, I told myself mentoring relationships are intense. New career, new world. Don't be that guy. I looked at the clock now. 11:47 p.m. If her flight was tonight, she'd be at the airport. Or already in the air. I picked up the ring, wiped it on my shirt, and slid it into my pocket like evidence. My hand went to her laptop on the dining table. The lid was down but not fully closed like she'd left in a hurry. When I opened it, the screen blinked awake without asking for a password. Her email was still open, the hotel confirmation at the top. Below it, drafts. Dozens of them. I clicked the most recent. A blank email body, cursor blinking. The address line already filled in with my name. Tomar. Subject: "I'm sorry." My throat tightened. I scrolled to the one beneath it. Draft saved, 3 days ago. The email unfurled like a wound. Omar. If you're reading this, I've done the thing I promised myself I wouldn't do. I wish I could tell you this was about a single mistake, a moment of weakness, but I'd be lying again, and I can't do that anymore. Not just to you. To myself. I didn't fall in love with Daniel overnight. It started as admiration. He saw me. Really saw me. Not as just your wife. Not as the woman who handles the bills and cooks on Sundays and asks if you're okay when you're distant and you say, "I'm fine," without looking up from your phone. My chest burned. It felt like my ribs were shrinking. There was more. I tried to tell you in small ways. When I said I was lonely even when you were right there. When I asked if we could travel somewhere, just the two of us, and you said work was crazy. When I started dressing differently and you didn't notice for 3 weeks. Daniel noticed. He noticed everything. Does that excuse what I've done? No. There is no excuse. There is only the fact that I let myself cross line after line, telling myself it wasn't that bad. Just lunch. Just a hug. Just one night in Karachi when the hotel accidentally gave us the same suite. I stopped reading for a moment. A sound leaving my throat that didn't sound like me. Something between a laugh and a sob. The Karachi trip. 3 months ago. The one where she'd come home with that new scarf and a guilty softness in her eyes. I kissed her quickly, distracted because I was on a call. I told myself the guilt was in my head. Projection. Insecurity. I forced myself to keep reading. You have every right to hate me. To never forgive me. I hate myself for not being strong enough to either fix what was broken between us or walk away before I broke it even more. I want you to know this, though. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I couldn't recognize myself anymore. I became someone who lied with ease, who checked your schedule before planning meetings, who smiled at you with his messages in my pocket. Daniel offered me a way out. Not just from you. From the person I've turned into here. I'm leaving with him, yes. I wish I could say I was leaving on my own, but that's another truth I don't have the courage for. You deserved honesty. I'm giving it to you too late. I hope one day that matters less than the fact that I finally did. Sarah. The room felt smaller when I finished. The walls pushed in, the ceiling dipping lower. I was aware of my heartbeat in strange places, my ears, my fingertips. She loved me. She loved him. She'd left because of both. My first instinct was rage. At Daniel, at her, at this sickly confessional email that made her betrayal feel almost noble. How dare she turn infidelity into a story about self-discovery? But beneath that, something uglier shifted. A memory slid in uninvited. 3 years ago, when my ex Layla had messaged me, asking to meet just for coffee. I'd gone. I hadn't told Sarah. I'd come home that night smelling faintly of Layla's perfume and guilt. Nothing had happened. Not technically. No kissing. No touching. Just 2 hours of nostalgia and flirtation that lit up parts of me I pretended were dead. I deleted the messages. Told myself it didn't count. Because nothing physical happened, right? But if Layla had asked me that night to leave, would I have hesitated as long as I liked to imagine? I closed my eyes, feeling the answer settle between my ribs like a stone. We'd both been standing on different sides of the same line for a long time, just close enough to pretend we weren't crossing it. I grabbed my phone and opened our shared location app before I could talk myself out of it. We'd installed it when she started traveling for work, for safety. Her icon blinked into view. She wasn't at the airport. She was at the train station across town. A hot, restless energy surged through me. I shoved the ring deeper into my pocket, grabbed my keys again and headed for the door. The city outside was damp and restless. Streetlights smudged in the light fog. I drove too fast, replaying her words in my head. He saw me. Really saw me. At the station, the smell of rain and diesel wrapped around me. People moved like currents, dragging suitcases, hugging goodbyes. I scanned the crowd, heart pounding. And then I saw her. She stood alone near platform 4, small duffel at her feet, hands jammed into the pockets of her coat. No Daniel. No tall silhouette next to hers. Just Sarah, staring at the departure board with a pale, haunted expression. For a moment I just watched her. The curve of her shoulders. The way she bit her lower lip when she was unsure. The soft line where her neck met her jaw. Details I'd stopped paying attention to, apparently. Then she turned her head slightly and saw me. Her eyes widened, mouth parting in shock, and something like grief flickered across her face. Omar. she breathed when I reached her. Her voice cracked on my name. I expected fury to come roaring back. Accusations. Demands. Instead, what came out was, "Where is he?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. He's not coming." The answer threw me. "What?" She swallowed, looking past my shoulder. "He was never leaving with me." That was the story I told myself to make it easier. He has a wife, kids, a life. I stared at her, trying to rearrange the puzzle pieces. "The hotel, the tickets. Those are real," she said quickly. "The affair is real. I'm not trying to soften that. But tonight he dropped me at the station and wished me luck starting over. That's all I get. Mentor to the end, I guess." She let out a small bitter laugh that broke halfway through. It hit me then. She destroyed our life for a man who wouldn't even share the wreckage. I felt sick. "So this is it?" I asked quietly. "You vanished to Lisbon alone while I find your ring in the sink and your confession on a screen?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I left the ring so you wouldn't think you did something wrong. I wanted it to be clear it was me. My choice. You think that makes it better?" "No," her voice dropped. "I just didn't want you picking through every fight, every bad day, wondering what you could have done. You were there, Omar. You were trying in your way. I was the one who stepped outside of us." A train announcement echoed overhead, metallic and distorted. "I met Layla for coffee," I said suddenly. Sarah blinked. "What? 3 years ago? I never told you." The words spilled out rough and ugly. Nothing happened, but it could have. I thought about it. A lot. I deleted the messages, told myself it wasn't cheating, because it didn't get physical. Her face crumpled, hurt, recognition, something else. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I don't want you leaving thinking you were the only one who broke something," I said. "You shattered it, yeah. But I'd been cracking it quietly for years." Silence hung between us, heavy and strange. Not absolution. Not condemnation. Just two people finally standing in the same harsh light. "So what now?" she whispered. I reached into my pocket and held up her ring. It shone dully under the station lights. Her hand went to her chest, fingers pressing just above her heart. "I don't know," I said truthfully. "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I want to try. I don't know if you could ever trust me again." Knowing I was halfway out the door in my head before you ever followed. Another announcement. Her train. The crowd shifted. "You could come home," I heard myself say. "We don't have to decide everything tonight." Her eyes closed, tears slipping free. "If I go back with you now, I'll stay," she whispered. "And in a year, in 5, I'll hate myself for not choosing differently. I'll resent you for being the safe choice. I'll look at you and see every lie I told and every truth I buried." She opened her eyes and looked at me with a tenderness that hurt more than any anger. "I love you," she said. "And that love isn't healthy anymore." I wanted to argue, to beg, to rage. But beneath all the pain, I recognized something in her voice, in the way her fingers shook. This wasn't a dramatic exit. This was a woman finally listening to the part of herself she'd been drowning for years. I took her hand and pressed the ring into her palm, closed her fingers around it. "Keep it," I said. "Not as a promise, as a reminder of what we were, and of what we let ourselves become." Her shoulders shook. "I'm so sorry." "Me too." The train slid into the station with a roar and a gust of hot air. People surged forward. She stepped closer, just once, and pressed her forehead to mine. I breathed in the familiar scent of her shampoo, something citrus and clean, and for a heartbeat we were us again, before mentors and layovers and almost affairs and actual ones. Then she pulled back, turned, and walked toward the open doors. She didn't look back. I watched her vanish into the carriage, swallowed by strangers and dim light. The train pulled away, stealing the shape of her from the platform, leaving me with a ring-shaped indentation in my palm and the acrid taste of truth in my mouth. It struck me with a clarity that was almost cruel. Sometimes betrayal isn't a single knife in the dark. Sometimes it's years of tiny cuts, inflicted by two people who loved each other and didn't know how to stop bleeding on each other. The night my wife vanished with her business mentor, she actually left alone. And for the first time, as the taillights of the train disappeared into the tunnel, I understood that this might be the most honest thing either of us had ever done.